Hi guys, I have a decluttering series coming up and it's all about decluttering a farmhouse. But before I jumped into it, what I wanted to do was go over a couple of things about why decluttering a farmhouse, if you are in regional or rural Australia, might be different to any other decluttering video for those who are making them in cities or in country towns. And we'll start there. Now, while I'm chatting, I will probably start cleaning. I'll probably unpack the dishwasher because life never ends in this house and on this farm. So guys, if you are listening to this and you need some cleaning and motivation, you want to keep going with a task, keep doing that task, listen in. It'll be the same as my other decluttering videos. You can do different areas with me, or you can keep doing what you're doing. So when you are in a regional area or when you are on a property, there's a couple of things that are different, as I mentioned before. So one of those things is rubbish removal. So when you are decluttering, when you're going through your house or your sheds, whatever it is that you're doing, rubbish removal is something that needs to be at the front of your brain. So not all farms and stations and properties have waste removal. So once you've decluttered it, whatever it might be, where is it going? We need to keep that in mind. So for those who this is a new concept for, not a lot of farm stations and properties have waste removal. So you might have it weekly in town, but for us, some of us need to take a trip into the local city waste service, whether that is weekly, monthly, whatever it is for them and their property, pay for that waste to then be disposed of. Or they've got some sort of setup and situation actually on their farm themselves. So whether that is the burn bin, whether that is a registered tip on their own property, or a pile or composting, however it is that they're getting rid of their garbage and trash. So when we're decluttering, we need to think, where's this stuff going? Can it be reused? Can it be recycled? Can it be used for something down the road? If I'm decluttering for something from the house, can I use it for my chickens, my sheds, machinery parts, whatever it is, later down the track? Another thing that we also need to remember when we are decluttering a farmhouse is also things are seasonal, but sometimes they're not annual. So what I mean by that is a lot of decluttering videos will go over, well, if you haven't used it in the last 12 months, 6 months, get rid of it. But on a farm, we need to be thinking further ahead than that. Have we used something in the last 5 to 10 years? And what is the chance that we're going to do that again? Now, it may sound like that is a bit of a weird way to tackle decluttering, but there's nothing worse than getting rid of something that you do actually need. So the other thing we're going to think about is storage. So where are we going to store that item? Does it need to be, if we're decluttering the kitchen, does it need to be kept in the kitchen if we haven't used it in the last couple of seasons or in the last couple of years? Or can it be moved outside into a different area of the house or outside, so that it can be easily retrieved when we need it? But if it's something we're not using every day or every week, does it need to be right here if we're trying to create a more feng shui place, a more practical place, if we don't have the storage for everything else that we have? Something else that I'd like to remind everybody is not everyone wants our stuff either. So another thing we need to think about when we're decluttering our farmhouses or some area on the farm is that where are we going to get rid of it if we can't do waste removal, if we don't really need it and needs to be stored? A lot of opportunity shops, Salvation Army, other channels in other countries, when they're talking about decluttering, will talk about donating to a thrift shop or a charity. If there is no one near us who is actually accepting donations, then we can't just make a donation box and drop that in at our local Sally's. What we need to do is actually work out where's it going. So when we're decluttering, we're thinking about our friends, our family. Is there someone who could actually benefit from our stuff that we can post it to them? Is it practical to post it to them? What if we call them up or send them a photo and they say, no, I don't want those items? Because a lot of the times they used to always say, someone's trash is another person's treasure. But in today's world, a lot of people just don't want stuff. And particularly on farm, when we're talking about decluttering, sometimes it's multi-generational items out of a farmhouse or a shed or something like that. There's a lot of memories, there's a lot of emotions that go into those items, but there's also items that have just been stored because it's great so-and-so's piece of furniture or piece of machinery. If you guys want me to go into a decluttering deep dive on some of the stuff on farm, let me know. We can do other areas. I'm going to start this series with just being in the house. But yes, what do we do if we can't donate? What do we do with it if nobody else wants it? And they're little different bits and pieces that you need to be thinking up front when you're decluttering. I don't have all the answers. If you have some of the answers, pop them in the comments below as we're going along. So I did notice in a lot of other videos when they were talking about decluttering, they were talking about whether or not they're like, oh, just put it up on the local buy, swap and sell, or just put it up, take it down to the markets. But if your community doesn't have those other, community groups, or you spent all day to take stuff down to a community event and then nobody's needed it or wanted it, then what do you do with it? Particularly if that rubbish disposal isn't really available to you, or you don't want to be contributing too much to your dump. But that's where we also need to be thinking, once we've done the declutter, then we also need to be thinking about, okay, how are we going to stop our houses and our sheds, refilling up with stuff? So one of the things when Ned and I first moved into this house, which was approximately 7 years ago, we didn't have, a lot of our own money. We didn't have a lot of our own things. So we quite quickly said yes to a lot of items that were being donated. Or friends and family would send us things if they were decluttering or downsizing that, they didn't want anymore. And so when I'm decluttering, during these series, there'll be a lot of those items which, we said thank you and we've brought into our home. But now 7 years on, it's really good to work out, okay, have we ever used this item? Do we need this item? Does it still need to be here? Do I need to hold on to it because someone gifted it to us or someone else didn't need it anymore? Why do we have to hold on to that item? So as you're decluttering your farm homes, you can think about things like that as well. Look at that, brand new. As you'll notice, probably in the background of a lot of my videos while we're doing the decluttering, I'll actually be cleaning as we go. We focus on the declutter, don't do the cleaning. But I find if I've cleaned something as I've gone, if there's not a house for something, it's much easier for me to say, okay, there's no place for it, or we don't need that. So then it's easier for me to let go on those items. I also want to be really realistic that places like my kitchen are used all the time, 3, 4, 5 times a day. So it's never going to be spotless. There's always going to be watermarks on the curtain from where the kids have tried to help me do different things like unpack the dishwasher or do some washing up or help me do cooking, and there's flour and stuff everywhere. That's okay. We're going to clean it. It never stays like that for long, but there's cycles in the house where things are just going to be intermittent. It's not going to be clean when I do my filming. It's going to be somewhere in that journey of being used. You're always going to have clean dishes, dirty dishes, and somewhere in between being used. So that's the background of, the idea about the background in my videos, is it's going to be that in-between place as well. The aim is also to be okay with that in between, because so many times when we're listening to videos or we're watching videos on YouTube and, sometimes you can feel that little bit of pressure of, oh, the house is so spotless, they're perfect all the time. I need to keep up with that expectation. So realism is that, a lot of people's houses don't always look perfect, particularly farmhouses, where we've got a lot on our plate, whether it is going down the paddock, whether it is looking after the crops or anything else that we do apart from being just in the home, you know, we also do those things outside of the home and with our kids. So let's set realistic expectations of ourselves, of me. A lot of you have asked for this series and I just haven't had time to do it when my house is spotless, if my house gets spotless. So come along with me on this journey. I guess we could call it messy to minimal, because by the time I end up, you know, filming a lot of these videos, the space that I'm cleaning and decluttering will look minimal and beautiful. So we'll go along with that. When I spoke to a lot of farm wives about decluttering before I decided to do this series, when it was being asked, one of the things that I was like, so what is it so hard about decluttering a space or cleaning a space that you find? And they said, well, because we're here by ourselves, you know, a lot of the time we don't have visitors. So when you've got visitors all the time, it's really easy to have that pressure on yourself of, oh, I've got to make the house look clean and tidy, and that means I need to declutter, you know, quite regularly. But if people aren't really visiting the farm, then you don't have that pressure on you. So another great thing about this series is you can pop it on, use it as your motivation, clean along with me, and hopefully that helps with that whole paralysis. Another thing that I teach in my Know Your Timings workshop, which you can do as self-paced learning with the workbook, or hopefully in the next, you know, few months, I'll have that up online where I'm actually doing some interactive workshops and some in-person workshops as well for that one. But something that I teach in that as well in Know Your Timings is sometimes we go into this waiting mode. Okay, we know that we're going to get called down the paddock to help move a mob of sheep, or we know that a job's coming up and we might need to do a parts run or a meal run or something like that, and we go into this transient area of waiting. We kind of get paused, like a glitch in a game. But if we know our timings, or we set a time limit, okay, I'm going to declutter. You can't see, but I've just opened a drawer. If I'm going to spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes decluttering this drawer, then that's going to help me get out of that standby period so that I can get some more stuff done. As I've been unpacking the dishwasher and talking to you all, I've got stuff on the bench in front of me that needs to go in the cabinets behind. And that's okay if I get distracted, if one of the kids needs me because they're outside playing at the moment, I can see them through the window. Or if my phone rings, it's okay if they're left on the bench. They're clean, I know they're clean, and I can pop them away when I've got 5 minutes when I get back into the house. So Know Your Timings is a fantastic course while we're here, and I've weirdly referred to it, is that these are jobs and decluttering jobs that you can do within 5-10 minutes. So you don't need to set half a day aside, and you don't need to be worrying about going into that transition, because we're going to set timers on this. I didn't for this chat because I know we had a lot to cover. Did you know if you have moved to a farm and you are dealing with multiple generations worth of things that you need to get through for your mental health and for practicality sakes, there are businesses that you can hire. But hopefully this video is enough to get you started on your journey. I also want to say is I'm not the kind of person who says you need to get things, you know, off your surfaces when you're decluttering, because if you use it, keep it on your bench top. You're the cook, you're the cleaner, you make that decision for yourself. Don't let other people tell you what you can and can't keep on your kitchen surfaces. It's just a pain for you if you need to get something out every day. But I have unpacked the dishwasher. I'm going to turn around and repack it. But let's get into this series. Anything you need particular help with, let me know in the comment section below. I will probably start with some little 5-10 minute fluffy jobs, such as starting with, you know, everyone has at least one junk drawer in their kitchen. So we'll probably start with something like that. Kids' toys and systems is another one that I've been asked to do, as well as kids' clothes. So when I do the next rollover of kids' clothes, I'll make sure I do that. And if we're lucky, I might even do one for the pantry. I know that a few of you have been asking for a pantry staples list and how to cook on farm when you've moved there and you're getting used to not having shops at your fingertips. I do have one video which I'll link in the description below, which is a little bit about one of the first videos I did about the pantry. And then I will be swapping out some clothes in the next couple of weeks. Not only because it's now heading into winter, but also because I will be changing out my pregnancy and maternity gear, and my breastfeeding gear will also need to be packed up and either popped into the storage cabinet, or it will need to be found a new home. So that video is also coming up if you want some idea of inspiration on how to go through that. And so until next time, guys, I'm going to pack this dishwasher. Thanks. I'll see you in another video. Make sure you've liked and subscribed, and so you can get notifications on all of that. If you like the content that I'm putting out on this page, you will also like the podcast, which can be found here on YouTube, as well as on all major podcasting platforms. So The Ultimate Farm Wife, and on that podcast, I interview farm wives about moving to the farm for the first time, hurdles and challenges they've had to overcome, and what happens if you're trying to integrate into or back into a family farming business. They are fantastic chats full of tips, tricks, hacks, and advice. So join me over there. That's The Ultimate Farm Wife. Or I also have a new podcast out with co-host Gillian Fennell. So that is absolutely fabulous. We are closing the divide between urban and rural agriculture. We're also giving a voice to agriculture beyond the headlines. So in a lot of news articles and programming that we're seeing at the moment, there is a lot of legislative policies that are coming up, particularly with the current government, and farmers are not being included in the decisions for their industry. So we're chatting all about that. Any questions on urban, rural, or agriculture, jump onto those platforms, jump into the comment section, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, guys. Bye.